At this point, it's best just to assume that the NSA is spying on us, and we'll never know if they really are or not. But today, a group calling themselves the Shadow Brokers has announced that they've hacked the NSA, and they've put up some files up for auction to prove it. Are they for real, or is this a scam? Here to help answer this question is our resident security expert, Iain Thomson. Welcome, Iain.
Hi, Megan. Pleasure as always.
So the Shadow Brokers claim that they've been monitoring the servers of the Equation Group. Let's start there. What is the Equation Group?
Well, the Equation Group was a hacking group that was linked to NSA operations by the security firm Kaspersky Lab. Now, they based that on both the sophistication of the malware that the Equation Group were using, but also on the types of targets they picked, predominantly in Russia, China, fair few in the UK, but friends always spy on each other after all. But it was predominantly against people who you would think were adversaries to the NSA. They were using a very highly sophisticated malware toolkit with various different modules that could be plugged on and played in as and when needed. Now, Kaspersky said that while it could never be definitively guaranteed, it was highly suggested that the Equation Group was operating, if not in cahoots with the NSA, but with a certain kind of linkage between the two, much as there seems to be with Gukova 2 and the Russian government at the moment.
So now what do the Shadow Brokers claim to have stolen from the Equation Group?
Well, they claim to have stolen the exploit list and a bunch of exploit tools that the Equation Group have been using over the years. They say basically they've been monitoring Equation Group's communications channels, and from this they found ways to break into its server, and they collected all this lovely goodies, which is, there's a fair old list of exploits in there from what we can gather at the moment. There's some very badly written Python code, and there's there's stuff in there which we know are exploits, some stuff which does which shares a name with some of the exploits that were listed in the NSA's Tailored Access Operations Hacking Squad catalog, where they listed all the things that they could do in the event of getting lawful warrants to do it or whatever. So I mean, there are linkages between what was released today or what was uploaded today and what we know of some of the NSA's exploit tools. And there do seem to be some legitimate vulnerabilities in there, but they're ones which have been reported already. So it's kind of a mixed bag at the moment.
How or what do we know specifically about the Equation Group other than their affinity for math?
Well, they seem to have been active since at least 2013, possibly earlier. Basically, they are using. If you look at the you can tell an awful lot about a hacking group by the types of tools they use. The vast majority are either using off-the-shelf exploit generation kits, more advanced ones, the generation kits which come with malware as a service, whereby if their malware that it creates gets kicked back, then they get a free go. Equation Group was rather different. Basically, you had a centralized structure with various different modules that could be used to attack different components within a computer operating system or the applications which it used. So it was much more sophisticated than we'd seen in the past, and very reminiscent of state-sanctioned hacking groups that we've seen emanating from China and Russia and elsewhere. So it was a cut above the rest when it came to their hacking technology. Their targets were also kind of interesting, let's say, in that there were people who the NSA might want to have a look at. Yes, I mean, if you look at that, mainly it's Russia, China, India. UK gets in there a lot because the NSA don't trust us, but a lot of people who you'd think the NSA would like to look at, and very few attempts to get into US servers, and virtually none to get into people like Canada and Australia and other sort of Five Eyes nations. So they were basing it on the sophistication of the software, the choice of targets, and then a rather nebulous term that Kaspersky have off the record, which is sort of like, well, we felt it was them. Now, bear in mind, there have been accusations that Kaspersky has very close ties with the Russian government. It's in their interest to spread rumors about the NSA's activities, just as in the interest of certain Western security companies who are sponsored by the US government or their people to actually, cast aspersions about other groups. So there's an enormous political bitch fight going on here, and a lot of them are being thrown around, and inevitably some is going to slap onto the wrong people and stick. So there's an awful lot of supposition in what's going on here. Sorry.
Do we know anything about the shadow group? I mean, have we heard of them before? Is it possible, do you think, that they had the ability to hack the NSA or the Equation group?
It's possible. I mean, if 20 years covering computer security industries told me anything, it's that it's always possible to get in somewhere. All it takes is one person pressing the wrong button or making a slight mistake, and you can get in there. So, I mean, this is what intelligence agencies around the world have lived with. Now, when it comes to this particular group themselves, this is one of the things that makes me rather suspicious. First off, we haven't heard from them before. That in itself is not unusual because these groups tend to be loose collectives that make up a new name on the spur of a hat whenever they're doing a particular campaign. Looking at their Twitter account, very little activity there at all. The first they've come on in the last 24 hours, and their sole tweets were to media organizations, not to the hacking community or anything like that, but going straight to the press saying, look, we've uploaded all these tools and they're from the NSA and you can report us on that. And then their Tumblr page, which is now missing or has been taken down, which contained a very badly English word rant, explaining in bad English how they got it by monitoring communications channels and why they were doing this auction and the terms and conditions of the auction, which were very, very odd as well. Basically, they were saying, we're holding an auction to an unspecified period of time, make your bids in Bitcoins. If we get to 1 million Bitcoins, then we'll release all the data anyway free of charge. So why anyone would want to pay them 1 million Bitcoins for that is, somewhat up in question. This whole thing, I have to say, does make me rather nervous. In that it seems to be organized in a very media-hungry and slapdash manner. Certainly a preliminary look at the code hasn't revealed anything that has, people going, oh my goodness, this must be from them. And indeed, one of the German CERT guys, Computer Emergency Response Teams, has actually done a fairly detailed look through. And he's saying that basically this looks like a bunch of recycled stuff. They obviously put a lot of work into it, but it does seem to be an awful lot of recycled and renamed material, and not a lot actually, and not things that we would expect to see in there that are new. So, I mean, based on that, if you want as a betting man and my personal view, I think it's bollocks, it's scammers. But if you think, but I mean, there is always the possibility that I am wrong because I haven't gone through the code line by line, and that this will need some fairly deep investigation. But what does make me suspicious is that certainly in the last couple of months, we've had a number of people offering money or offering data, online for Bitcoins, and 9 times out of 10, it turns out to be rubbish. So I do think there's a bunch of scammers out there who are looking to get rich quick off selling junk data and think this is the way to do it.
Do a lot of hackers, in your experience, use Tumblr as a platform?
Well, oddly enough, the NSA uses it. The Director of National Intelligence, who hands out news on the NSA, has his own Tumblr blog, and that's the official channel for getting it through. Yeah, you can be really proud of those defense dollars. It's obviously doing an awful lot of good for you, So yeah, Tumblr. I mean, okay, it's a slightly odd choice, but there have been more odd choices. It could have been worse. It could have been Etsy, and they'd be releasing this with little sparkles around it and seashells of pasta put into the outside of it. But no, I mean, as I say, it raised a couple of red flags in my head. There we see. This is we give billions each year to the NSA, and they go to Tumblr when it comes to telling us their stuff. It's just so much fun.
They really should be using Snapchat at this point, don't you think?
Get down with the kids, for goodness sake. I mean, an Instagram account at the very least. But no, it's...
How close are they to the Bitcoin demands that they were making?
The last time I checked, which was a couple of hours ago, they're up to about 0.03 Bitcoins, which is about $21. So I don't get the feeling that many other people are buying this as well. I mean, as it turns out, the code's been taken down from a lot of sites. Their Tumblr page has been taken down. I suspect strongly this will be seen as a hoax. And I don't honestly think there's going to be that many people willing to lash out $1 million in Bitcoin and then just give the data to everyone on a gross basis. So I mean, it's a Monday morning. Everyone was desperate for news, and then once one person starts covering, we all start digging into it. You've got a choice. Do you ignore something like this, or do you actually go speak to some people, try and find out what's going on, and then make a measured judgment? I spoke to Kaspersky, who are the experts in the equation group. They say they're going through it and they don't want to say anything until they're absolutely sure. I've spoken to a couple of people off the record from different companies, and I'm largely getting the same thing from them, which is this is almost certainly a scam. But almost certainly no one's actually going to go and say, no, it's definitely not, because you've got an awful amount of code to go through before you can actually say that.
So, but you're saying don't spend your Bitcoin on this yet.
No, there are far, far better things and far worse things to spend your Bitcoin on, for that matter. But I mean, there are plenty of things to spend Bitcoin on, and I don't think this should be one of them.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Iain. Iain Thomson is a reporter at the Register, at Iain Thomson on Twitter. Thanks so much for coming on.
Always a pleasure. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you, Iain.